Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Beyond the Horizon. I am joined here by my friend, the founder of Hangar 24 Brewery, a sailor, a pilot. We should just call him a Renaissance man at this point, but this is Mr. Ben Cook. Thanks for joining us, Ben.
Right on. Stoked to be here.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I'm thinking through my mind, like, how do we unpackage all of this? You've got a lot of things that the last 6 years really has happened. I mean, more than that, but
Yeah.
what would you say you're up to right now, just to bring people up to speed? What's going on? What's the kind of the most relevant thing in life today?
Right. Yeah, I think the most relevant thing for me right now is essentially an integration of my faith in all areas of my life. And so I think, started and grew Hangar 24 for 13 years. And then I set off doing missionary work and adventuring on a sailboat for 5 years while my brother ran the business. And then I came back about a year ago, and now it's kind of like, how do I bring all this together? And like, what is God, where's God directing me in all this? And so the last year has kind of been exploring what that looks like and how to like love people that work within the company through good leadership and direction. And then how do we use this kind of platform to love our communities well? So
that's amazing. So this is a season of life that is, whether you are probably already anticipating it, but is going to come with its frictions, its challenges, God working in you and other people. And it's a fun season coming up.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah.
The friction, I mean, it's all, there's friction at every single step. You know what I mean? And I think when you try to do anything, it's like people generally resist change, not everyone, because it's scary. And so it's been part of it is like, how do you, I think show the vision as much as possible so that you can help reduce some of that fear and reduce some of that friction as we kind of lean into making people's lives better as employees and as staff and as friends and with our community. So I think it's creating change is and managing change is a difficult thing with lots of friction. But then a lot of times, and even me, like I'll resist stuff, you know what I mean? And I don't even know I need to do it and I'll resist doing it because it's difficult. But it's like, I think anytime we're stepping into something new, there's like that friction. You have to get past that. Once you get past that, then you get to sit into that goodness that's on the other side. And it's like, I'm super thankful I did that. And then other people are like, oh, okay, yeah, that actually was a good idea.
Yeah. Did you watch that Climb, Alex Honnold?
Yeah.
So I saw something afterwards was coming up. I started seeing all these things in my feed after climbing, right? It's like I'm a climber all of a sudden. Right. But those guys talking about the shoes that they use and how it's like a special type of rubber that like it reacts to friction and pressure and stuff like that, right? And I was just thinking like, it's interesting. It's like the friction and the pressure that they put downward is what kind of ignites that stickiness. And so it's like without any friction at all, it's hard to like find your direction or where you're going, right? You're just kind of like moving around. So in theory, in business and in these things you're rolling out, it's like that friction can kind of help create some guidance, even though it's not always the funnest environment or situation.
Totally. I think it's just a part of it. I think it's like an expectation of there's gonna be friction. It's just how much. But so then it's like, God, is this a closed door or is this a door that's just kind of rusted a little bit that I need to jam open? So I think, friction I think is helpful, and it helps us to see blind spots and it helps us to grow. And so I think it's definitely a good thing, but it's not like enjoyable in the moment. What is that, like type 2 fun or whatever? It's like you don't like it when it's happening, but you like it when it's over.
Exactly. Yeah. I find that ever since I interviewed, do you know Neil Brewer?
Sounds really familiar.
He's doing something at Mariners in March.
Okay.
But he's an author. He has a book called Obedience, Suffering, Reward. I interviewed him a while back, and I keep having these conversations. It keeps bringing me back to his book, and he talks about when you're obedient to God.
Yeah, I know Neil. Yeah, okay, no, just clicked. Took me a minute.
Yeah. So you're doing this thing, you feel it called, you're being obedient. Now you're going to go into that suffering zone where it's like there's this gauntlet period of time where it's just like then produces that reward.
Totally. Yeah. So I think it's like all about like suffering well.
Yeah. Yeah. Failing forward.
Yeah, exactly.
We call it in sales. So you mentioned something about how there's a lot of people are adverse to change, but not everyone. Do you feel like there's very little neutral? Like it's either people are like all in and want to go for it, and then everyone else is resistant. I have tend to seen that, right? Where you get a couple early adopters and everybody else wants to stay with the way things are because they're like afraid.
Right.
Do you feel that also, or do you think there's a neutral?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. I think most people sit in the camp of like just resisting change, which I totally get it. And I think it's a job of a leader to help guide them. I think that's part of the job. And then you have your people that are just like, you just point and I'm freaking going, you know what I mean? And they're gung ho. And then there are some that sit relatively in the neutral where they're indifferent, but oftentimes those are generally I find to be people that they've got other things going on. You're like, I don't know, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. They're not gung ho and they're not resistant. Yeah. They're just kind of going with the flow. But yeah, I think generally people fall into one of those two camps that you mentioned. Right. And I've reckoned, I used to even like kind of get upset, because I'm such an optimist and like, let's just go, you know what I mean? And then I always used to see people that are dragging their feet as like, I would just be super annoyed. And I come to find out like, no, that's just human nature. That's people being people. And oftentimes those people that are maybe resistant, they might have some wisdom. They might be seeing something I'm not. Mm-hmm. And I might be, walking into something that's not going to be good. So I try to even check in with them and make them a part of the process. And I think once they have understanding as to where we're going and why we're going there, a lot of that friction starts to disappear. And then I'm listening to them because there's a very good chance they're seeing something I don't. Yeah. Right.
These people who are possibly have this perspective where you're like listening and stuff like that, are these like mentors or people you go to, or you're talking about just people within your normal day-to-day that are resisting?
Yeah, day-to-day. Day-to-day for sure. Yeah. I definitely have some mentors, and I rarely don't get resistance from mentors. Usually if I get resistance from them, there's wisdom to like, hey, let's just slow down just a little bit, don't pump the brakes, but like,
right. You can't make that turn at 80, right?
Yeah, like, kind of that. That's usually the advice I'm getting from my mentors, but they're excited and they love it, and they just help me to think through things. But I think that's the blend of things. Like a really good team is made up of the like eternal optimist that's just like, this is going to be amazing. You know what I mean? And then you have the pessimists that like see danger, you know what I mean? And they're riddled in fear. And then, you have wise people who are like, okay, yeah, both are true. Like, how do we navigate this intentionally and really well? And I think generally when I've found when I've had a mixture of all of that and everyone's vibing with each other, those produce like the best teams. Because if you get a bunch of me on there, then I have my friend Eric Jones, like we get ourselves into some insane situations because we're both optimists. We both think things are going to go perfect, and we're both down to like go explore anything. And so it's like we find ourselves hanging off cliffs and doing crazy sailing things, and we have the greatest stories, but for sure when I'm with him, like greatest risk.
Right.
So
yeah, and a room full of the pessimists will never go.
You won't go anywhere. Circle, yeah, right? You'll sit right where you're at, not do anything, and just be miserable. So it's like I think that's like God's body, right? I think he's like no part's more important than the other. It's like we all need each other, right? You know what I mean? And it keeps it interesting.
Yeah,
so it's like without judgment. You know what I mean? I used to be really judgmental, and I still fight that urge, but it's like just because they're different than me doesn't mean that's not. Like a pessimist isn't necessarily bad. It's just they think differently. And so it's like, how do I work with that? Right. You know what I mean? Like what are they seeing that you know what I mean? So I think it's like just no judgment. We're just different. Yeah. And just accepting.
I was listening to a friend of mine the other day, posted something, and he was saying that, it's not about whether you do or don't judge someone. Like we all have a judgment that happens almost instantaneously based on first impressions or past experiences you put on people, but it's really the ability to not stay there. Like you can have this instant thought, but then it's your job to say, well, let me see if I could see it how they see it. Like what's their perspective? How can I don't have to stay in this judgment, even though maybe my knee-jerk reaction was I had this thought, and I can't pretend like I didn't have the thought and make this quote unquote judgment, but it's not letting yourself stay there and then actually like judging them and leaving it that way, and like you can see things from other perspective.
Totally. Yeah. And I think I'm like in the process of learning exactly what we're talking about. It's like, there's like some difference between judgment and discernment too. Cause your judgment might be spot on, you know what I mean? Like this person might be up to no good, and like they might be, or, there might be ulterior motives. There might, like, it's like, I've discovered like there is like no predictability when it comes to people. Like there's some, but like sometimes the judgment's right. And I think, like you said, though, is not staying there and be like, is this true? Mm-hmm. So I think our thoughts lie to us often. I think our emotions lie to us often. So I think it's like we have to like just kind of look at those things outside of them and be like, is that true? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like for me, it's like all about scripture. Like I just compared it to what does God have to say about this? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and oftentimes I'm like, find that like my flesh is lying to me or my emotions are lying to me. That's not true. So like, I got to adjust. Or if I even feel threatened by someone in some action, I'm like, they're up to no good. And then I'm like, wait a second. You know what I mean? Like that's not actually what's happening here. Right. You know what I mean? So it's like reanalyze and then just go have a conversation. I found that most of the time, like when you get two people to be transparent with each other, you can almost always find common ground and even direction.
100%. And typically once you break that ice and become transparent or have that conversation, it's easier than you thought it was going to be. Yeah. Like we like psych ourselves out. Like this is going to be so hard, or how are you going to make this happen? You like
stay up all night worrying about it. And then you have a 5-minute conversation. Like, oh wait.
You're like, wow, that was easy. I find that one of the challenges I've had that I've really had to try to work through is like benefit of the doubt to a fault, where you're like, no, there are doing good or want to do good or do, and I will wait too long to make a final judgment call that even if they're not up to no good, they're in the wrong seat on the bus and they're maybe not capable of delivering what they say they want to deliver and what we need to deliver. But it's just, how long do you wait before it happens? And they might be thriving in a different seat of the bus, but that's been a struggle of mine. I don't know if in business you've had that.
Totally. Every day. Excuse me. It's like the kind of principle that I've been pushing lately or encouraging, whatever, both probably, is like grace and truth. You know what I mean? It's like never shy away from the truth and always have grace. So it's like the more, and that has to happen in a safe environment. So I found, again, like when we're transparent, there's no facades, there's no pretending. Like we just look at the truth. Like you said you're going to do X and Y happened, or you may aspire to do X, but you don't have the capability, but you want to tell everyone you do. Like it's not the truth. Like, hey, let's sit down. Like, let's look at this. Like, and oftentimes I just try like it's just like ask questions, as many questions as I can ask without making statements, just because then because the truth is just what it is. It's there for discovery. And so if they can say the truth, it's much better. Like if it comes from me, it might sound judgmental or condemning, or they may think I have some motive behind it. And so like much of my days is showing people I don't have motive. Like I want you to win. I want you to make tons of money, or I want you to go on these great adventure, or whatever it is. It's like I want these things. Like,
or even if you have a motive, as long as your motive is in alignment with their motive, right? Because you can know and believe, okay, if the vehicle we're talking about for you to make money also makes me money, then I maybe I do have a motive for you to double down in your production, and that will have a benefit to me also. So we're aligned. I feel like that's a motive where it's okay, versus there's this natural, people think the motive is only for your benefit and not for theirs. Right. And there's this like this illusion. I talk a lot about it in sales. We're in insurance sales and financial services. Insurance is sold, not bought. Like nobody really is out there buying insurance unless it's insurance you have to have. You must have homeowners insurance if you have a loan. You got to have car insurance, right? You don't have to have life insurance or long-term care or disability or these other things.
Right.
So it's sold. And I'm often talking with our team about the fact that like you've got to ask questions so that you can then take all the things that this person put out there and said and say, well, let's just analyze everything you said. And like, if we could put it over there and look at it, we can probably both agree based on everything you said, this makes sense for you.
Right.
But if you do this, I'm going to be paid, or I'm going to, I get a new client. So that is good for me.
Right.
But it's like, I have to get you to see that it is a benefit to you. And then they can see, oh, it's okay that it's also a benefit to him.
Yes.
in business and employees and people, like we face the same, it's really some form of sales, right? I mean, kind of.
Totally. No, absolutely. And I think, I can't remember what book it was, but it talked about negotiating. Prior to that book, it's always like, I want to get the best deal for myself as possible. And after reading that, I kind of came out with it. No, I want to find a win-win, like that makes it sustainable. And like, so for staff or for vendors or whatever, like I'm trying to build a machine that everyone's winning.
Mm-hmm.
No one's being taken advantage of. Even vendors. I had a vendor recently that said, "Hey, this is my normal rate. I really want to work with you. I'll work for less." And I said, "No, I don't want you to work for less. Like I want you to work for your rate because then you'll be excited to work with us." You know what I mean? But we just need to make sure that for that rate, you're creating more value than that, or else it's a non-sustainable system.
Right.
So it's like if you work at this rate, but you take twice as long as I'm expecting you to, that's not going to work.
Right.
At that rate and you're working twice as fast, it's great. Or, I'm not even looking for that. Just deliver on what you said.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, cost is only an issue in the absence of value.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like if
that's good.
You could charge me 10 times as much, but we need the equal value out of it so that it's sustainable, or else we're going to get ripped off and now our motives are not aligned.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I always tell staff, like, I want you to make $1 million, you know what I mean? Because that means the only way I can pay you that is if you're creating more value than that. You know, if I pay you 10, but you only produce 8, that's going to be a problem.
So talk to me a little bit about the business itself. Like Hangar 24, how did you, 13 years?
Yeah.
How'd you start it? Where did this idea come from and why that industry and how'd you name it and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we excuse me. I did stair sprints right before this and I haven't done sprints in forever. So I'm like dying.
Perfect time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, that was not a good time to do this. Hangar 24 started. So while I was in college at Cal State San Bernardino, me and my buds would always meet at the Redlands Municipal Airport on Thursdays. It was like, we called it Hangar Night. And
just cause, or were you already like flying?
No, just for fun. I mean, like before I even started becoming a pilot, it was just like I aspired to be a pilot, and I met a old high school friend. We had met. We were friends in high school. We kind of did our own thing. Then we kind of came back together. And he just got his pilot's license, and he said there's a really cool community of people over at the Redlands Airport that hang out every Thursday. He's like, if you want to become a pilot, just start hanging out. Like eventually it'll probably just happen, And so we started meeting there. And if you showed up, whether you're a friend, family, whatever, they'd find a seat for you in some airplane. And so all these we just hop in planes, which like what I know now is like, that's probably not the wisest decision, but you just hop in a plane, you go flying. Sometimes we all fly together. Sometimes we just go explore. It's just about like enjoying general aviation and flying low and slow. And I just got super hooked. And then when we would land the airplanes, I'd bring my home brews. Sometimes I'd bring a whole kegerator, in the back of my pickup, and oftentimes those bottled. And then we had friends that would barbecue. We had friends that like played music, like sing-along songs, John Denver, like things that you just hang out. And I'm like, it was just so awesome. Whenever I brought anyone with me, everyone was like, that was so fun. And so like in that process, I had fallen in love with the science of making beer. As a biology major at Cal State San Bernardino, so I got really nerdy with the process of making beer. And then when it was done, it was so cool just to get most people don't care about the process, but you just get to hand these beers out, and it's like, people are like, oh my God, this is so good. And it like, people would gather. I'm like, hey, I have a new recipe out. And like a bunch of people come to my house. Like, so I fell in love with that, the process and like the gathering aspect of people. And, so eventually, a family friend who worked at Anheuser-Busch said, you ever thought about brewing for a living? And I was like, oh my God, you get paid to do this? Like, I like, for some reason, I just never I'm like, I didn't think that could be a job. Maybe it's like too good to be true, And ultimately, I did go work for Anheuser-Busch for a little bit, the Van Nuys Brewery, and just fell in love with the industry. But I decided, like, I can't make it in corporate America. I'm just like, I'm not designed for it. I don't know how to play office politics and all that. And so I just started looking to open up my own business. I started going to free seminars and classes put on by the local economic centers, San Bernardino, I can't remember what it's called. I went to a women's one because I'm like, I just wanted to learn, I'm like, I'm not a woman, but can I come? And they said, yeah. And so I learned, how to write a business plan, how to secure an SBA loan, and everything I could figure out how to start a business. And then eventually.
How old are you at this time?
That was in my mid-20s.
Okay.
And then, I ultimately secured a loan and found a location right across from my buddy Kit's hangar, and his hangar is hangar number 24. And so that's where the namesake comes from. Right. And the hangar 24, if you sit on the patio right now and drink a beer and you just look about 100 feet in front of you, there's hangar 24. So you're looking at where all that went down for years and years and years. We did that it doesn't happen anymore as life happens. People had kind of have scattered since then. But yeah, that's where the namesake came from. And ultimately like bought the Monte Carlo brewery, the casino in Vegas. Mm-hmm. My dad and I went out there, and then my brother and mom came out and helped. And I don't know how to do any of that stuff. I did go to UC Davis for the Master Brewers Program.
Wait, back up. You bought the casino in Vegas?
Their brewery.
The brewery, okay.
Yeah. So I skipped several steps in there. But when I was at Anheuser-Busch, they said any brewer worth their salt, goes to UC Davis Master Brewers Program. And I looked at it. It's like usually like the top brewing school in the world, or number 2, depending on who you are. There's Weinstefan in Germany that they claim is better. It's an incredible school. So I went to UC Davis and graduated from that Master Brewers Program. And then,
Is this like a, how many year program? It's like a regular degree?
They worked with the big brewers. So the big brewers wanted to get advanced education for their staff, but they didn't want their staff to disappear for 2 years to get a master's program. And so they took essentially more instruction hours than a 2-year master's program and condensed it into 6 months. So you're in school 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week.
It's your job.
It's your job.
Okay.
Yeah. And at the end of it, there's a global brewers exam that all graduating brewers around the world take. And so it's a really, really intensive thing, but you do get to drink beer at 10 in the morning on Tuesdays. It's pretty cool. But they line up all a really light beer, 20 plus samples. And then they start the beginning program. They put all the off flavors in the beer. And so you can really taste them. And then every week they lower the dosage rates of those so you can see where your personal threshold is, because everyone's different to different off flavors.
So what are the off flavors? This is when something's really hoppy or
no,
that kind of stuff?
Not hoppy, wouldn't be off flavor. More if there was an error in the process of making the beer, it produces unfavorable flavors. Really, it's any flavor that you did not intend.
Okay.
And so, but usually it's things like, butter flavor, or if there's oxidized, if you ever tasted an old beer that sat in your garage forever, you're like, it's still good. You put it in the fridge, you take it out and you drink it. It tastes kind of like cardboard. That's oxidation. Okay. There's apple. But sometimes you say, I want apple flavor. So you can put that in so that it's not an off flavor. You know what I mean?
I see.
So yeah, it's really, but it's important to be able to test that and know what it tastes like so you can produce quality beer. But
right.
You go to this program and it goes way beyond what you ever need. You're following individual molecule through the Krebs cycle and metabolism.
So this is the beer equivalent of being a sommelier in the wine world, sort of.
I'd say.
Or no, because they're not.
That's
making
more
the
consumer side.
Yeah, that's true.
So this is the production.
Is there a beer Monnier?
There's it's called Cicerone is kind of the widely. Okay. They're saying this is the sommelier for beer is Cicerone. Okay. I'm only level 1 on that. I did it right when it came out. That's cool, and took it real quick, and it is cool. And we're gonna. We used to have all of our staff level 1 certified, and we are gonna be doing that again because I believe in the program a lot. But yeah, I don't know anyone that's the top level Cicerone, but I bet it's pretty cool.
So with all this science and all this stuff, give us a 101 on how do you make beer? What's happening?
Yeah.
Or breakdown.
So yeah, it's oh man, my brain goes so wide. But to kind of narrow it down, essentially, so you have barley that's grown for us, all of our ingredients for the most part are American made. If we're making a German beer, we'll use German ingredients. But so in the Midwest, they're growing barley, right? And so they harvest the barley. They take the very best barley, and that goes to making beer. They send it through the malting process, which I won't bore you with the details of that, but it's super interesting. And then that ships to the brewery. Then our hops come from the Pacific Northwest and Yakima Valley. And if you just use malt, it's sweet. It's a grain, so it's sweet. So it'd be very sweet, and it wouldn't taste like beer. So you add hops are bitter. So depending on the ratios of hops to malt, tells you, am I going to have an IPA that's got loads of hops that's going to be really bitter? Or say if you have a Guinness, that's going to be way more malt forward with barely any hops in it. And that's kind of what determines that. But all beers are made pretty much the same way. So if you could put a Guinness and a Coors Light on the table, very little difference in process in making those things. It's still made with barley. It's just one's roasted barley. It has more roasted barley, and one, other doesn't have any roasted barley. And they both still use hops. So you take this barley, you essentially convert the long starches into simple sugars so that the yeast can then eat those simple sugars. And just like we metabolize and we have waste products that come out, yeast metabolizes those sugars, and its two primary waste products are carbon dioxide and alcohol. So the alcohol stays, most of this carbon dioxide just goes off of the atmosphere, gets harvested, and a lot of that carbon dioxide does get capped, and that's what gives you the bubbles in your beer. After that's done, then you send it through a filtration process. If it's filtered, obviously hazies are like all the rage right now, so that's like unfiltered or slightly filtered. Then it goes into a can or a keg after that, and then out to distribution.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And dude, if you haven't done it, you guys should do like a series on that where you like show kind of like document that whole process. I think it would be really cool.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Would love to do that.
Yeah, that'd be rad. So then when it comes to the business itself, 13 years is way longer than most businesses make it.
Yep.
What are some of the
We're almost at 20 now.
20. Oh, 13 was where
when I took off sailing for 5 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So 20 years, that's I mean, you're like a staple like legacy business now at that point, right? I mean, obviously it could go way longer when you're legacy, but
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, the average, you're basically 4 to 5 times outlived what the average startup will make it.
Oh wow, I had no idea.
Now I don't know if specifically in the brewing world that number is probably different, but just like small businesses in general, most don't make it outside of 3 years, and if they do, 5 is kind of the next death sentence, and then beyond that, it starts to become more challenging. But how big have you guys scaled at this point?
Well, it's been a crazy journey. So like I opened up obviously the brewery in 2008 and didn't even really think much about the like tap room, the retail side. I'm like, no,
2008. Is this before or after everything starts? Right in the middle,
right in the middle of it. Yeah. Right
Best
in the middle
time
of it.
to start a
But I was
business.
like 27 at the time, I think, and like super naive. Like I wasn't even paying attention to that. I didn't even care. Like I got a loan. I'm freaking good. And I did the, business plan. I'm like, I don't even have to sell too much beer to break even. So my goal is like, man, if I can just pay my bills, like I can pay rent at home and get to brew beer and hang out with my friends, that was the win. That was the original vision. And then that happened. And shoot, what was the original question?
Oh, where are you guys scaled today?
So 2008 opened that, and then that was before the craft beer boom hit. And then shortly after that, people just started drinking more and more craft beer, and then craft beer like became a thing. But I remember going to like the first craft brewers conference. It was like only like, a couple hundred people were there. Greg Cook of Stone was there, Jim Cook of Sam Adams and Sam Calcione, Dogfish Head. And like, they said, hey, anyone who's starting a brewery right now, raise their hand. It's like me and like 2 or 3 other dudes. And they're like, stand up. We stood up, and it was like a standing ovation. Everyone's like, yeah, you guys are crazy, So the industry was tight, and then everyone went out and had beers. Like everyone that was like, quote unquote, like famous in the beer industry, like everyone just sitting having beers. I'm like, this is so awesome. It was like a dream, And then Hangar 24 just started scaling as craft beer scaled. We were with the Anheuser-Busch distribution network. And for a couple of years, we were the fastest growing brewery in the U.S. We scaled, I think, to top. We were like the 73rd largest brewery in the U.S.
Wow.
And so to kind of grow the business, we were kind of reaching the capacity of that brewery. So I opened up my first restaurant in Lake Havasu because it was just super cheap rent. And everyone says restaurants are hard. They all go out of business. So I didn't really want to do it, but I'm like, this one's so inexpensive. And I grew up going to Havasu, and it's on the airport. Like fighter jets come and pull up there to get fueled and stuff. I'm like, I got to try.
Right.
So we did it. It worked. And then because of that, the Irvine location came available. A friend of mine from Mariners Church said, I got this rad spot. And it was rad. And so that was like restaurant number 2. And then around this time, around 2015 or so, I'm getting the order a little mixed up, but like craft beer started peaking out. The big brewers started buying craft brewers, and at this point, you go to a grocery store. If you look on the shelf, and it looks like all this selection, it's really like 3 breweries, and it's Anheuser-Busch, Miller Coors, and none of those are American businesses anymore, by the way. So like most of the beer you find at your grocery stores is not American companies.
They're not American owned. Are some of those still made here?
They're all still made here.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all still made here, but like they're all kind of controlled by foreign countries at this point.
And you guys are still independent?
It's just me as on the ownership. So yeah, we're as grass people. I think our name outbats like what we really are, which is great, but also like sometimes it creates challenges. So yeah, so as those big brewers kind of started leveraging their power within the industry, that's when you kind of saw craft beer starting to take a hit. There was even a program within our distributors like, hey, if you essentially replace craft beer placements with Anheuser-Busch owned placements, they'll write you a fat check. And which ended up being super illegal, and the feds went after them, and they actually had to stop that program. But significant damage was done to us already. Wow. And so the beer brand started kind of taking a dive, but we were crushing it at restaurants. So we started leaning into restaurants, and now at this point, the beer brand is like almost insignificant, but our restaurants are crushing it, and we have 4 now. So we opened up another one in Riverside. So I never even dreamed ever once in my life like I want to own restaurants. Now I have 4, just because of the way the market rolled out. Right. But we are kind of like relaunching our wholesale effort in like 2 weeks.
Okay.
And so all new branding to like really lean into the identity. I've never known who I am more as a person more, and what this brewery is and what it represents and how we can love our community more. And that's like all going to come out visually and how we live it out. So I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to do big things on the wholesale, like beer brand distribution side again.
Right. Which would be it in other people's restaurants and on the shelves and all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So essentially we produce all the beer in Redlands. Then it goes to our distributor. Then our distributor sells it to, restaurants and grocery stores, any place beer is sold. They're the ones that sell it to them, and then they sell it to the consumer.
Now there's like a maximum amount of beer you can produce and still be considered like a
craft brewery,
right?
Yeah.
What is that number?
Yeah, it's funny. So like to put it in a scale, like they Sam Adams was the biggest craft brewer, and I think it was set at 1.5 million barrels, and then they were going to cross that, so they moved it up to like 3 million barrels. I can't remember what it is, something like that.
Right.
So
they sort of hold that stick of where it goes, or
I mean, if you have the money and the trade organization sets where the stick is, and you're the biggest payer into the trade organization, it's weird how that bar moves,
Yeah.
To put that in perspective, like we, at our peak when we were the 75th or 73rd largest craft brewer in the country, we were producing 40,000 barrels a year.
Oh, dang. So at one point now 3 million is the top. Okay.
Yeah. So like
there's a lot of
even
room
the biggest brewers, 100,000, 200,000 barrels. So like going from like the big brewers down to like these small brewers that have like these, big names, and you think you see them everywhere. The disparity between that is it's like
insane.
Massive.
Sounds like, yeah.
Yeah. It's not even the same game. They don't even operate by the same rules.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you see long-term going with the business? Do you want to exit one day and sell off this big thing you build, or do you think you'll pass it on one day? Or
I don't know. That's a good question. Like I never started the brewery for an exit. Originally I started again. So like, I want to pay my bills and have fun with my friends. That was like plan A. And I even came back. So when I came back from sailing, and I'm like, even asked God, I'm like, I don't have these same aspirations anymore. I don't want to like live that old life anymore. And it's like, what do you want? You want me to sell it now? Do you want so the goal's not money and exit. That's not the target. What's motivating me right now is like, how do I live out my faith within this organization? How can this organization be a light within the community and create change within culture and move us in a positive direction, to create unity? You know what I mean? I think there's so much strife in culture right now.
Yeah, for sure.
If like we can put a drop in that bucket of helping unity, like we ain't going to say, we're not going to be, Hangar 24 is not going to save the world, but if we can put our one drop in there, 10 drops in there, then like that's a win. And like, what does that look like? I mean, it looks like, paying our employees well, like, there's always room for improvement there, right? Everyone always wants more money, but it's like above industry standards and creating more jobs. We have 150 employees now. It's, generating as much money as possible so that then we can do stuff with it. You know what I mean? Like we get bonus staff, we can go tackle social things in the air. Like how can we have compassion in our community? So it's like, for me, it's like, I'm trying to build the most efficient and effective business model based on industry standards so that we can like love people well, and use that resource for something while also like leading people well and like helping however we walk alongside people, we can. There's a lot of efforts that are in process right now. And like some of the stuff I can't quite talk about yet because it's still on the early stage of development, but like I think what motivates me now, because like I could just sell it right now and go I found places in the world that I would love and just go chill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that temptation rears its head, frequently when we talk about those people that are resisting everything. I'm like, I'm putting all this work in, like it'll help you, and like there's resistance, and like I'm just gonna go to Australia and chill, And so those temptations come up, but like that's not what's like. I'm not like
fulfilled by that.
No, like there's time like in those 5 years where like there's a period where like stuff just wasn't happening. And I was like literally sitting on a sailboat in French Polynesia, in the most beautiful part in the world. And I was like, I'm freaking bored. You know what I mean? I'm like, why am I like, I've ever like, again, I've like kind of like all these things that people say they want, like they really want to do. And it's like, that doesn't really fulfill. It's like, I think our souls are built to carry responsibility.
Okay.
And so I was thirsty for responsibility, some weight, like put some stress on me. You know what I mean? Like we want to live to our fullest potential, and we want to have like the most impact and like help humanity. I think our souls are built that way to like need that.
Did you feel that way like always, or did going on this trip and having this lightened responsibility give you that perspective?
That.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you needed a little, maybe you were craving the lack of responsibility.
I was craving because I carried it. Like, when you start a business, like you carry all this responsibility, and at least for me, employees can kind of choose to come and go. Like, I want to move to here, or I want to go do my own thing. Like, they can kind of come and go. When you're the business owner, you're kind of stuck. You know what I mean? Like, and so for 13 years, I gave pretty much every ounce of my life to this thing, and I just, I think, and it wasn't producing like what I wanted, and I didn't even quite know what I wanted it to produce. Do
you mean financially it wasn't?
No, it was weird. As coming from a business owner, it's a weird thing, and there's probably some growing for me. Like, I'm just not motivated by money. I'm motivated by money now because of what it can do, but I've never, and maybe it's because the way I grew up or something like that. Like, I've never like wanted, you know what I mean? Like, which is a terrible thing to say probably, but I don't know. It's just money is not super motivating for me.
Right. But when you say it wasn't putting out what you wanted, you mean if it's not the dollar amount, then it was like the impact. So
like the original part, so like starting the brewery is like, I want to be able to pay my bills and have fun with my friends. And like for me, like I bought into the American dream, right? Like make lots of money, buy a house. And there's even stuff, like when Dan Bilzerian was like a hero back then, like with all the women and the parties, and you see this, like the Hollywood, like the pinnacles, like this Hollywood lifestyle, and I started falling into that. And I lived in Newport. I had a 40-foot yacht in front of my house, had a small plane, and I was miserable. I was like, why do I have the American dream? I finally kind of arrived, and then like, why am I more miserable than I've ever been? And ultimately, like in the middle of that, I started searching for answers. I'm like, this can't be it. And so like, that's when I came to faith. That's when I found Jesus and started exploring for a significant amount of time of, even other faiths. And I'm like, what's the truth? You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's when I found Jesus. And once I actually believed, I said I believed, and it changed my entire life around. And so, but my life was still like in like two halves, you know what I mean? It's like I had my faith life, my friends and the things that I hung out with at church, and then I had my work life, and like there was no like real overlap. And I think it's like, even a term, don't talk about faith at work, there's all these rules, like culture set up to keep those two things separate, which is ridiculous. And I get, don't pressure people and coerce people, but like I think one of the reasons culture is where it is today is because people stop talking. Like just talk. And like, be transparent. Like, awesome, you disagree with me? So cool. Like, how did you come to that conclusion? Like, that's like, stuff too. Stuff that I don't know. Everyone on the planet knows stuff I don't know. Anyway, so like, so the brewery is like that old life, the old party lifestyle and all that. Like, it's like these things make me feel more like death. when I'm reading my Bible, praying with my friends from church, like, man, that makes me feel alive. And like, the more of this I get, the more alive I feel. The more of money, success, and all this, like the more empty I feel. So like, I'm like, maybe I'll try to reconcile these things, and I talked to Eric Hurd at Mariners, and he's like, well, alcohol's not a sin, but like getting drunk's a sin, money's not a sin, but greed is sin, so I started getting proper perspective of these things that are good in the world, but not when they're abused or viewed wrongly. And so like, I was just in this learning process. I even I'm like, who's a Christian and brews beer? And I'm like, oh, the monasteries, the Trappist monks in Belgium. And I'm like, oh wait, there's a monastery that brews beer in Spencer, Massachusetts. So I called them, and their brewmaster answered, and his name is Father Isaac. And it's so cool. And he sounds just like you want your monk brewer to sound like, just so jolly, so happy, but also just so full of peace,
Yeah.
And I asked him, I was like, how do you justify that? He's like, well, we don't get drunk. We limit ourselves. We get one beer at dinner, and we just don't desire more than that. And then he's like, also, there's people that will walk in this monastery that would never in a million years walk in a church. And so we get to share our faith, and he said, sometimes we could tell they're very uncomfortable. So we don't explicitly share our faith. They can experience our faith through just how we are. And then sometimes people are very curious. They ask us like lots of questions about Jesus that they would never walk in a church and say. So I'm like, that's pretty cool. But then I'm circling to the answer to your question, and like, I'm like, okay, maybe I can blend these things, and I had actually a Christian worship band like hit us up, Christ Tafari, and they played, and it was incredible, and it was packed out. But then I saw a few Christians getting drunk, and I'm like, I do not want to be a part of that. I don't, I like took responsibility. I'm like, I don't want to facilitate that. And I didn't fully understand it. It didn't seem to make sense. And so I just kept those two parts of my life separate. And craft beer industry's in like major decline. Everyone's selling out, either for big money, or by this time it's not even big money. It's like pennies on the dollar. Even the big brewers like Stone Brewing Company, who said they'd never sold to Sapporo. Like all, New Belgium sold a couple of years ago. Okay. And all these kind of like heroes in the area that I had so much respect for, and I still do, like just the world changed, and so I'm having to do like multiple rounds of layoffs. All of a sudden, everyone loves you when business is good and it's going up, and when business is going down, everyone, right. I experienced the opposite. Now you're like public enemy number one. They think like you're lining your pockets because you're laying off. It's like, no, you don't lay off. I mean, I guess some big corporations, but not when you're a small business. You're not laying off to like line your pockets. It's like it was like survival mode. Is like, how do we survive? And we're one of the few breweries that did survive. So like selling out for pennies on the dollars, that's not surviving. That's not like this radical exit, even if it's a big number. It's like, it's a departure. Yeah. Which again, no judgment at all. I'm really happy for the people that got what they wanted out of that. And, but like I didn't sell, like we hung in, and it sucked for a long time. And so again, I'm like, more Jesus I get, that's awesome. The business is just like, it just sucks. You know what I mean? Right. And so like, and even the lifestyle, like a lot of it's like when they meet the brewer, they want to have beers with the brewer. They want to go all night. And like part of the way is you bond is you go out and get drunk together. You know what I mean? Like that's part of the craft beer industry, like shocker. Right. Right. And I wasn't mature enough to live within that space well. Right. And so, then I set off. Like I started looking for a CEO. I didn't want to sell, and interviewed CEOs. And ultimately, like my brother was a successful CEO and sold a company to private equity. He's like, I'll put my hat in the ring. So we talked and we came to a deal. And obviously it's incredible that it's family. And he ran it for 5 years while I set sail around the world to experience Jesus in different cultures and like grow in my faith in different cultural contexts, and kind of try to be a blessing to anyone I could as I went along.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super commendable to like actually have that perspective and really look at it and see how these things weren't fusing, and it's cool I will keep unpackaging it, but to see how this thing comes all the way like full circle, right? Yeah. So you always wanted to sail around the world, or did you now realize like I got to find a way to go experience Jesus. I'm going to go on a mission. Like, how did you come to this conclusion that you're going to sail across the world? And
it's a, I'm trying to think how to put that concisely. I mean, I've had the dream of sailing around the world for a long time. And one of the air show pilots, we threw an air show every year, like 25,000 people for Hangar 24. We had all branches of the military show with jets. It's awesome.
That's right.
One of the pilots, you
still do that?
No, COVID shut it down.
I see.
If
you do it again, you gotta let me know.
Yeah, no, we everyone wants it back, but it's so we had 600 volunteers it took to run it, and my parents like spearheaded it, and I literally brought it up to my mom. They're like, so and she's like, no. So she's like, I'm down to advise, but I just don't want to be the one. So like, it may come back. Like, we all want it to. We just have to figure out, like, we need to find the energy somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Well, sailing. So yeah, one of the pilots, like, she like grabbed me when I said, one day I want to sail around the world. She literally grabbed me and shook me and looked me like right in the eye. And she's like, you have to leave and go do it. Like, you have to, like, don't wait. Like, you're not going to live forever. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of like shook me. And it was years later that I started, but like, also I'm running the business and, none of this stuff's lining up. And I had the desire, but it's none of the God didn't open any of the doors yet. And I think that's one of the ways he directs us is through open and closed doors. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And,
so you were trying and then it just wasn't working?
No, I mean, I had the desire. I mean, I'd like, like with anything, like you have something super painful going on. It's like, I just want to be as far away from that as possible, but like there's responsibility. So you just wear it, you just walk in every day and smile and be an encouragement to everyone in a downturning industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's you can't walk in there like Eeyore, you know what I mean? It's just like, you got to just wear it.
Right.
And so I read my Bible a lot. And I'm looking at even my own life and I'm reading the Bible. I'm like, why am I reading in the Bible? I'm not experiencing everything that the Bible says I should be experiencing. I'm not even behaving or thinking certain ways that the Bible is saying I should. And like, I just know the more I live like the Bible says, the more I feel alive. And so, I was just thinking like, what is it? Even like with my friends, like sometimes it's like, church on Sunday, you know what I mean? Like getting smashed on Friday or Saturday with my church friends, you know what I mean? Like, not intentionally. It's like fun. You're sitting there and you're drinking a couple of beers and all of a sudden you're drunk, you know what I mean? Like, wasn't the plan, but like, I'm even looking at all that and again, with no judgment, I was a part of it. But I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Something's not right here. You know what I mean? And so I wanted more of Jesus, and I started thinking like, what is my purpose? Like, what is my purpose in this life? Like, how did God design me? And so like, I went down this path. Like, Rick Warren's done some great messages and he has the acronym SHAPE, it's like spiritual gifts. I think like your heart, your abilities, your, I think personality and your experiences like help to guide you. Like, why am I here? Like what is my unique contribution to the world? And I really started leaning into that. And like through that, like a part of me discovered like I'm an explorer. Like where I'm most alive is when I'm exploring, you know what I mean? With like walking into pain and discovering things, and I want to discover more of like, what does life look like to live it like the Bible says, and kind of combining that with my explorerness. I'm like the sailboat, and I'm like, God, is this, he opened up the door for me to go sailing. Cause my brother threw his hat in the ring for the CEO. And then I started looking at sailboats, and I'm like, I fell in love with this certain make and model. And there was one on the East Coast, and that was terrible. And there's like, there's only one that's even close, and it's in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And I already, like 6 months prior, bought the domain name sailingpsalms.org. I'm like, I'm going to call the boat Psalms. That's going to be the name of it. And I'm just going to share the journey on YouTube as I go. And just the Lord put Psalms on my heart. And so I start flying down to look at this boat in Puerto Vallarta, and the sales broker sends me the sales agreement, say, hey, start looking this over. So if you like it, we can kind of move quickly. And like, I didn't even care what the name was. Like, and the pictures were too granulated. I couldn't see what the name of the boat was. And I didn't care because I was just going to call it Psalms. On the flight down, I'm looking at the sales contract, and the boat's name is Selah. And I'm like, that's weird. I read my Bible a lot, but I didn't put that together. And I'm like, what does that word mean? And so I Google it, and it's like Selah appears nearly exclusively in the Christian Bible, and almost exclusively in the Christian Bible in the book of Psalms. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And so, that kind of shook me a little bit. And
what does that word mean?
It's like what's funny is like the scholars aren't 100% what it means. They're not 100% sure, but most people land on it means like pause and reflect. It's like when God speaks to you, shows you things in your life, you have to take time to like pause and just like reflect, like what's God telling me in this, which is like super apt, right?
Wait, the word is
Selah, S-E-L-A.
But it's written in the Bible as Selah, or
exactly
it is
like that.
Okay.
So like if you read Psalms, like you go through there and a psalm will go, and at the end of the psalm, it'll say Selah. Okay. So like you read this, now pause and reflect on it. Yeah, but they're not 100% sure that's what it means, which is kind of funny. But that's
because
generally
there's like
accepted.
Greek words and other words that were translated right into that word, or is that the actual?
It's a mystery. Okay. I think they don't. There's not enough there for them to say with 100% certainty, because I think it's not used outside of the Bible. So where the other words are, Greek or Hebrew, and they're used in other places, where this is just found pretty much there. It's interesting. And so it's they're pretty sure. They're pretty sure.
And so the person who owned the boat previously, did they name it because of that?
Yeah. So it gets interesting. So then I even go to the boat, and I walk on the boat, and there's a little figurine of a sailboat on there, and it says, "A man who follows God always gets to his destination." I'm like, what? This is freaking so crazy. And then I'm like, so obviously I asked the broker, I'm assuming the people that own this are Christians. And he's like, yeah, they're Christians. I'm like, that's so cool. Like the sailing community, and I love them dearly. They're my friends, and some of them feel like family, but most of them are not Christians. They're free birds. They're out like living and doing anything and everything. That's why they got into sailing. They want unadulterated freedom. Yeah. So to find a Christian boat is pretty unusual. And a boat named Selah that's from the Book of Psalms, when I literally 6 months earlier bought the donate, that got put on my heart long before then. And then there's one other confirmation. And so it's like when you walk into Puerto Vallarta Marina, it's a big marina with lots of docks, and each dock has its own individual gate card. Like you can only get on your dock, you can't get on other docks. And this dock only has like 5 boats in it. Walking off the boat, everyone has a security gate, and it's like 5 boats. It's like short thing. Right outside of that one gate, you take 2 steps forward, and when that marina was built and they poured the concrete, someone wrote a name in the concrete while it was still wet, and it was my name.
No way.
It says Benji, which is what my family called me in my youth growing up.
Yeah.
And Benji's literally written 2 steps in front of that gate.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's like, and I got video of all this stuff, pictures of everything. I'm just like floored. I'm like, okay, so if I ever question that if this is God's direction or not, like,
you got all
those
these
are confirmations.
things,
Yeah,
right.
Plenty of times over the next 5 years when things are just like going terribly wrong. I'm like, this is real. Are you sure you want me to be doing this? Because like nothing seems to be going right. But yeah, so yeah, essentially that's kind of how the sailing journey started. Was just like I kept exploring, like, who am I, God? What did you make me for? Directionally, where do you want me to head? And the sailing doors kind of started opening up in that way, and so I just started walking through them.
Did you know how to sail?
No.
So you had to go and
I bought the boat, then learned how to sail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Through like classes?
Yeah, so there's a place in Newport. There's a bunch of them, but I went to one and I just took the basic ones, which is great. So it just makes you not sound stupid, but you don't learn. You learn the basics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But most of it, as I started talking to sailors and stuff, they're like, "Don't do that." Well, maybe I shouldn't say that on that. But, I support the sailing schools, but most of those guys out there, they just did it. You usually you just get the old timers on the boat. You know what I mean? And then give them a couple beers, and you'll learn more.
Right, which you have supply of.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd bring beers for these old salty sailors, and they all salty, like it's which is part of the fun. But it's like. Yeah, they just teach you by doing, and a lot of you just learn by, it's the same thing, like you said earlier, failing forward. Like a lot of it's failing forward. And so I was asking all these questions one day to one of the old timers in Puerto Vallarta. I'm like, I want to go here. I started asking all these questions, and I texted him this huge list because he said he would answer my questions. And he just replied with, go do it and just don't hit anything.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, as long as you don't hit anything, you're fine. Like, what are you going to do? You're still floating, right? Yeah. You have food, yeah. You have water, then you're fine. Huh. And so like, it was super helpful in business. Never, it's like and you hear the term too, like you can take lots of shots, just don't take one below the waterline. You know what I mean? So it's like, know what you can't fail at and just protect that. And the rest of you just figure it out as you go. So like, that's kind of been it. Is like, then another guy, oh my God, this guy's so crazy, but it's too long of a story, but he just says, just don't run out of water. He's like, you don't have to worry about anything else. Like nothing else even matters. You're not going to get any trouble. You're not going to hit some big hurricane. Just watch the frickin', watch your phone. You know what I mean? It's like, and it takes all the worry out of it. He's like, just don't run out of water. He's like, you can go a long time without eating food. And he's like, plus there's fish everywhere, except the like super middle of the ocean. But I don't know. It's just, it took a lot of the anxiety out of things.
Right. You say super middle of the ocean. There's not a lot of fish like that?
Not in my experience. Like when we did the Pacific crossing and stuff, like we would throw the line out there as nothing. But like the second we get closer to shore, we'd like, you can't keep the fish. Like we didn't use bait. We just throw out a cedar plug out the back and like you got mahi tacos like any day you want.
And is that just because like the whole ecosystem that like everything feeds off of something? It's
just so.
Too deep and too.
I'm assuming so. Yeah, it's just super deep, and there's just not a lot of other things to eat out there.
Like blue whales crossing.
Yeah. We did, and we did run into blue whales. We experienced almost every kind of whale. That's crazy.
So cool.
Yeah.
What was your path that you guys charted? You left Puerto Vallarta then?
Yeah, Puerto Vallarta. Oh, so I stayed down there for like 2 years, just like learning how to sail and like working with that's where I met YWAM, Youth with the Mission, for the first time, and I think we worked with the Calvary Chapel down there with their kids, and so just kind of learning like how do I even exist within a foreign country? Like that was new. Like so essentially living in Mexico full time, and learning how to sail.
I mean, you just to pause on that for a second. Yeah. Like Mexico has such a bad rap. And as far as like going down there from here and all these things can happen in cartels and all these things, like were you scared? Did you experience any of that stuff at all?
Not directly. I don't know. I think I have a problem with fear. I don't get scared of most things. I fear probably stupid things I shouldn't fear and then I don't fear things I probably should. But what I learned is down there is like, if you're not doing stupid things, you don't run into those guys. You're not out there. Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. And then, so I just never, but they're there everywhere. And I don't know. No, I never experienced, Mazatlan probably got the closest like experiences to like, you just felt darkness within the city. Beautiful city, beautiful people, but like cartels super active and it's just, it's a different place.
So what was your route? You leave?
Oh, I'm sorry. So we went, Puerto Vallarta, up to Mazatlan, back to Puerto Vallarta. This is like learning, then back up to Mazatlan, see a Cortez crossing to La Paz, spent a good amount of time in La Paz down around Cabo, up the Baja Peninsula to Newport Beach, where I stayed for like 6 months and refitted and got ready for the crossing. And then I tried to cross to Hawaii, but like, the autopilot kept breaking like a day or two out. We left once and it broke, and then came back, fixed it, and then left again, and the autopilot broke again. And we were already at kind of a deadline of time where it would be safe. And like, as we were buttered up, well, not safe, but it was like we were buttered up right against Christmas and people wanted to be with their families. And so I kind of like lost the crew at that point.
How big is your boat? What is this boat?
It's a 54-foot Jeanneau. It's a sloop, so it's just like a one mast. And I had 3 other people with me on that crew there, but like it's also like the season was it wasn't gonna work. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to wait until next season. Or no, I would have had to wait till next season if I wanted to go to Hawaii. I'm like, well, what's another route? I'm like, I could head south now, and so I did. So I got a different crew, which ended up being just one girl, Mel. She's a rad sailor. And so we headed south. We went to Cabo, and then Cabo down, Puerto Vallarta, and then to essentially the tip of Mexico, right at the Guatemala border. And then we from there we actually did missions into Guatemala with some friends who were from there, from a local church. And that was awesome. Then from there, the Guatemala-Mexico border, we did a 23-day Pacific crossing to the Marquesas in French Polynesia. Okay. And then Marquesas to the Tuamotus, which are a bunch of atolls right there that are just like
is that near like Samoa and that area?
No, that's pretty far from there.
Okay.
And then essentially French Polynesia, if you look at Hawaii on the globe and you just go straight south,
down,
you just literally on the opposite, same distance on the opposite side of the equator, that's French Polynesia.
Right. And you're like off of like the next closest mainland is like Australia, New Zealand, like that area, right?
You're like dead center of the Pacific Ocean, which the Pacific Ocean, like you've probably seen them on social media, the globe, like if you turn it and you look at the Atlantic, it's much smaller and there's all this land. If you flip it and you look at the globe from that direction, it's all water. Like the Pacific Ocean is massive. And so French Polynesia is literally like dead in the center. So there like is no mainland anywhere.
Okay.
And so then ultimately
it's made up a lot of islands though, right?
Hundreds.
Okay.
Hundreds of small islands. And then now the boat's been in Tahiti for 2 years. So my visa's up now, so I'll have to sail from well, it feels like have to because I love Tahiti and I've like there's people there that are literally like family now.
I want to go to Tahiti.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Like, so bad.
It makes other places less desirable to it'll wreck you for vacations because it's like untouched. So like one time like we put on snorkel gear and we swam. We're like, let's see how far this reef goes. It's like it's like finding Nemo. Like every fish you can imagine, every coral, every color you can imagine. I'm like, there's no way this is probably just this little sweet spot. We swam for 2 hours in one direction. We never got to the end of the reef.
No way.
And it was like that healthy the whole time. We're like, this is absurd. And then there's not that many people. Like, and so like it's just untouched.
Right.
And it's perfect. There's whales. You go swimming. There's like giant whales. It's literally like a dream. I'm like, I can't believe there's not millions of people there. It makes no sense to me. But yeah, so that's where the boat is now. And the next stop will be either Fiji or Australia or New Zealand. I haven't decided yet. Probably Fiji and then just stop there because I just heard it's unreal. So it'll be Tahiti to Niue to Tonga to Fiji.
Nice.
Yeah, that's this year's route, God willing.
Right, just go and they have the I don't know if the WSL this year is competing in Fiji, but the surf contest when the waves are big at Cloudbreak.
Yeah,
it's insane. It's the most perfect, huge, giant, like 20-foot left-hand barreling wave that just breaks forever off of Tavarua. This little like, and it like I've never been there, but you watch these videos and it's the most picture perfect just lines of these waves coming in, and there's just a little atoll and little hotel, these things, and just I would love to just park the boat out. And I gotta go. I want to go.
I'll introduce you to my friends. They would love to have you.
Oh man,
they would
that would
love
be
to have
amazing.
You. Yeah, they literally because like they're kind of have their like group of people, and it's like there's not many people, so they love visitors.
Yeah, you get internet on the boat. I can work for me.
Starlink.
That's what I used when we were in the RV. Starlink. Yeah. The only thing in the RV that made it tough is you need open sky. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we were in like foresty, thicker areas, and I'm like, trying to put it on the roof of the RV. Like, how much taller can I get? I'm trying to poke through this little hole, or the cord it comes with is like 50 feet long. Yeah. So I'm like walking past other people's camps. I'm like, I got to go under your RV, dude. I got to bring it over here ready to get signal. But in the ocean, like it's wide open. Right?
Yep. Yeah. It's just what I found out is when you're in lightning storms, it takes it out. There's no internet in lightning storms.
Okay, you must have seen some incredible lightning storms because I've heard like across these remote areas over the ocean, you can just see like forever, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's like only one time where like I was like, we might be in some real trouble here, and that was actually crossing the Tehuantepec Pass in Mexico. It's like so. Picture all the weather forms up in the Caribbean. And then if it makes its way to the west, it filters through this tiny part of Mexico where there's like a valley. And then all that energy shoots through this one pass into the Pacific region. And so like if wind's blowing there, like there's all these tales of like cargo ships just getting completely tipped over and sank, and sailboats sank instantly. And like it's violent. And so you have to actually ask permission from the Mexican government to cross it. And
you're just crossing open seas?
So it's like this land mass. So it's like, you're trying to, so if this is ocean here, I don't know, it's probably ocean here, you're just crossing from like here to here.
Okay.
And so you're it's like, I think if I remember correctly, it's like a 2-day crossing. We're in open ocean. And you're exposed. And so you have to get permission because it'll sink you quick. And so, we actually had to wait 2 weeks because there's too much wind ripping through there. And so like wherever I got, we've heard all these stories and how dangerous it's like. Now we're all kind of like psyched up, like, okay, this is going to be a real thing. And I had a great guy with me who was a waterman and like lifeguard in Newport Beach. And I'm like, we made a good team. So I was feeling confident. I'm like, this is serious, you know?
Right.
So finally, after 2 weeks, we get the permission, we get sailing, and it was ripping pretty good, 25, 30 knots. So like, that's super healthy. Like we're ripping for like the first day.
This wind is behind you, taking you.
You actually don't really want wind behind you. It's not as powerful. Like this one actually was like a quartering headwind, and it's like close hauled. It's called. So it's a little violent, but you're going fast. And like for two dudes, you know what I mean? Like we were like loving it. You know,
25 knots. Is that what you said?
Yeah, 25, 30 knots. The wind.
Okay, yeah.
That puts we were probably, you know, the sail. It's a big, heavy sailboat. It's a super heavy sailboat. So I mean, the boat we were probably only going like, you know, 8 to 10 knots,
which is miles per hour. What is that?
Oh man, what is the conversion? Oh my gosh, my brain's switched since I've been on the boat in 6 months. It's like I just turn all that knowledge off and like have to like get into business mode. Yeah, I don't know. It's not fast.
No, okay.
It feels fast though.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Everything on water feels
boat.
fast.
Yeah, exactly. So we're ripping along, and then, you know, we're like, man, this is healthy. You know, it's got our attention. We're paying attention. Because a lot of times sailing, you're just cruising along, and you're just, you know, you sip a beer, chill, like whatever. It's like it's very uneventful. So this was eventful. But then the next day, it's literally dead calm, like mirror finish glass, like flatter than any lake I've ever been on. Like, and it was super hot, and we're like, this is weird. So now I have to turn the motor on. We're motoring along all day, and we literally were like, that's weird, like just that's uneventful. And we can see the marina, our destination, in front of us, like it's like right there. And all of a sudden, you remember the movie Independence Day, where the alien ship starts coming through the atmosphere and the clouds are billowing down? Do you remember that at all?
I think so.
It looks like that, and we're like, oh, that doesn't look good. And it's right over the marina, and the temperature drops like 20 degrees instantly. And I'm like, that's also can't be good. And it went from dead calm, flat glass mirror finish to all of a sudden, the sails were already down because there's no wind, so that was nice. But we're like, let's turn 90 degrees just in case. We're turning 90 degrees now. We're surfing like at least 12-foot waves, maybe 15-foot waves.
Wow.
That formed
on a boat
up instantly.
That big, that's like
these are monsters. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you surf, so like monsters from flat to monsters within minutes, not hours, minutes.
And are these things, are you going up them?
So this we literally, I had to put boat in neutral. We're surfing. We're literally surfing waves. So we're because if we get off center just
you're
a
going
little
into
bit,
the marina, so they're breaking.
Well, we were, but we turned.
Okay.
So now so when you get something like that, you have to go with the wind. Don't fight it. So like now we're just like we kind of go, and we're going with the wind as much as possible while trying to turn away from it to get out of its way. So so we're surfing these waves while making, you know, being as off center as much as possible. But I got a little too off center, and it wants to like flip the boat, and that's how the mast strikes the ground or the water, and that's how your mast gets ripped off, and you're now in real trouble.
Right.
And so like it violently kind of turned once, so I was able to save it enough, got back, you know, straight, and I was trying to call on my weather guy, because like I'm not super experienced with weather. I'm like, and we looked at all the weather things. There was no big storms coming or anything, so like super confusing. And I got a hold of him. He's like, let me look at it and I'll call you back. But by the time he was trying to call back, this storm, we're fully enveloped. There's lightning in every single direction, hitting literally everywhere, all around us constantly. Not like here or there, like violent lightning storm. The rain is so thick you can't even see like 5-10 feet away from the boat, and it's like hitting horizontal because the wind speeds, and the wind speeds were 0, and I think they maxed out at like 60 knots. And we got all of it on GoPro, which is super cool. Well, once we were not afraid for our lives, but like from literally up there, I'm like I even looked at him like I've not experienced it before. I don't know what to do. Like we're doing the best we can, and now the guy can't get a hold of us because the internet's out because there's lightning everywhere. And so I'm like, are we about to die? Is the storm going to get way bigger? Like, because the wind just kept climbing. Every minute we'd look, it's just more. Like, where's that going to top out? Like, did a hurricane just start?
Right. You see these like deadliest catch videos,
exactly.
Right? With, like, these 50-foot waves.
And we weren't expecting anything. We watched all what I thought was all. So this is a learning lesson. And ultimately, we found out it's just a extremely powerful squall, and eventually the lightning let up enough where the guy was able to get through, and he said, it's just a squall, you already did the right thing, just keep heading in the direction you're heading, get out of its way. And we had to go like 2 hours away from the marina.
Is just a little,
it's like a real isolated storm, and it just moved, and it moved right over us, it enveloped us, and just moved right past us, and then it literally went back to dead calm, perfectly flat water.
Oh wow.
Right after that.
So you were like in the eye of like a micro hurricane almost, like
kind of, yeah.
Past.
Yeah, kind of like that. And so then I learned it's like we weren't the software I was using didn't have radar. So now I know to check radar. If we would have radar, we would have seen that. I don't know that we could have done anything about it because it formed up. Like I went on the maps and watched like the historical, cause it literally was nothing. And it just boiled up right over the marina and hammered us.
Crazy.
It was crazy. But for a minute there, like we were both scared. Like I was scared. And it takes a lot to get me there. And like, I'm like, frick, this might sink us. And there's no one else out there. We didn't see one boat that entire time.
Right.
And no one's coming out in those conditions. So I'm like, if we sink, we're done. But we didn't. And it all worked out.
Yeah. As you're describing this story, what came into my mind is like, this is the scene that gets set when the disciples are like, Jesus, like, wake up.
Why are you sleeping?
Why are you sleeping?
Yeah.
Why are you sleeping? Like,
dude, I brought that verse up when we were in that, and I'm like, that's what came to, it's funny that's what came to my mind. And then, we looked at each other. I'm like, no, we got this. You know what I mean? Like, God's with us. And we fist pumped, and we went from like terrified to laughing our butts off. And then we actually, once we had that moment of like, God's with us even in this storm right now, it shifted from fear to like, this is kind of fun now. Like, we're not going to die. God's not going to kill us, right? Like, I mean, I didn't believe that, you know?
Right, yeah.
So anyways, good verse.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's way cool after, right? Like telling the story. Yeah. But so you go on this whole, what was the length of your sailing before you, like from when you went and started living in Mexico to when you came back and you've, I don't know, been here?
Well, I mean, yeah, so it was like 5 years. I mean,
that you were completely removed? I mean, you might have visited and stuff, but before
well, I would come back because you can actually only sail like 6 months out of the year. The other 6 months are cyclone season. And the
regardless of where you are, or just in the Pacific?
Pretty much wherever you are.
Okay.
And so the insurance companies won't cover you if you move the boat at that time. So pretty much you got to park it for 6 months. So in those 6 months, sometimes I'd stay in country, and sometimes I would just come home. And or sometimes I go traveling. Like our friends from Mariners have a ministry in Ukraine, so I got to go to Ukraine and be on the front lines and do that. We had like literally the ground shaking, and like because mortars are hitting all around us, and like the tea's like Jurassic Park. They call it frontline tea, and you sit it on the table, and it's like vibrating like in Jurassic Park because all the artillery's hitting around there.
Wow, that's crazy.
But these ministry people are there's all these older people that can't leave their homes or won't leave their homes, and they find ways to love people on the front lines, share the love of Jesus on the front lines. And so they minister there and the whole country. But like, that was crazy. So in the 6 months I would go do things like, I try to go see like, okay, how can I keep this effort going even though I can't sail?
Right.
Yeah.
So you go through this like a 5-year roughly period, right? You went on it to see how you can experience Jesus the way that you're reading in the Bible that you weren't experiencing it here in Orange County in Southern California, right?
Yeah.
Did you experience, like, how did you experience it? What happened that do you look back and go, I felt it. I got to what I was reading that I wasn't feeling. I felt it, and I got it by going and doing that.
Yeah, I think for sure, like God's here. Jesus is here with us in Orange County, right? It's not it's you, it's me. So traveling, I think in all the trials, all the different people I met, like it has a way of like just revealing your own lies that you've bought into, you know what I mean? And, getting to learn about how people are following Jesus in different countries allows you, I think, to see him more holistically rather than like going to one church, going there for 30 years, like you pretty narrow perspective of who God is, and God's so much bigger, you know? So, everyone's reading the same Bible, you know what I mean? So it's like, how is that getting, and of course there's tons of overlap, but like getting to learn from people all over the world, and even like learning too about like people who weren't believers and like that are I'm like, man, I met like a family who's like, man, they're more like Jesus than people I've met within the church. I'm like, wow, how is that possible?
Right.
You know what I mean? And like, so then going through the learnings of that and just, yeah, there's so many trials within sailing around the world. It's like, and all these things that it's like continuously going back to scripture. Like, what does God have? That didn't go the way I thought it would go. Like, what does God have to say about that? And constantly going to that. And that's, I think, how he strips away our lies. Like we're all bought into lies somewhere, usually a lot even being brought from our youth. And it's like a refining fire that strips that away. That's like kind of what the 5 years was doing, you know? And then also, yeah, seeing like, I mean, there's places too that have like, I've been to that have like no money, that like people are stoked. Like they're happier than a lot of the people I know in Orange County that live on the beach. They have all the money in the world. Like, you know what I mean? So there's all this revelation that's come up. And there's so many stories. It's too many to tell, but I am writing a book. So like I was doing YouTube for a while and then I shut it down. The amount of money and time it was taking to do YouTube wasn't commensurate to like the fruit it was producing. Right. And so it was just taking too much time away from like the actual work. And so I just dove into the work and then like God put on my heart, I'm like, there's no way I have to share these learnings. And so that's when like, I actually got Bob Goff is, I would consider one of my mentors. And I was like, hey, what do you think about me writing this down? And of course he's extremely encouraging. And I joined one of his programs, and him and Kim Stewart have helped me. I'm about a third of the way done with the book. And I think what I'm going through right now with Hangar 24 and experiencing here, I think is like the final chapter. Cause like I couldn't I'm like, why am I stuck? You know? And I think it's because, now leaving and now coming back, I see Orange County. Like I more like Jesus, I think sees Orange County and when I'm, like anywhere, like now it's just like my face, it's not compartmentalized anymore. Right. You know what I mean? So now I'm able to be anywhere essentially and like see God in all of it, you know?
So you would encourage people to get out of their bubble to see God working in different ways? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the bubble could even be, literally anything, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't think a missionary needs to go. I think the best missionary just goes across the street, you know what I mean? Like you don't need to cross oceans. Like God put that on my heart. And so I did it. But like, yeah, I think exploration and discovery and getting out of your bubble can happen right in your backyard. It can happen in your own relationship, you know what I mean? So I think, it's like, how can I see new things? And I think it's, getting out of your bubble and exploring. So you made a massive left turn here with the whole Ukraine thing. I had no idea about that. So just tell me, like, how was that? Like they have this ministry, you know, they're doing it, but obviously that increases the level of danger and things that are going on because you're in a literal war zone, right? Like, did that open your eyes in new ways? Did you see any things that were like really graphic or scary or anything happen like right near you? Not I mean, I saw lots of graphic things on the group chat. I didn't see any of it with my own eyes. We met with people who things had, war things happened to them and were pretty jacked up still, but I never saw it like in person. And then I heard, of course, unlimited amount of stories, cause they're constantly sharing the stories. And, there was more like, I was just an observer there. You know what I mean? I was just like, I got invited and, I'm like, I would love to come be there. And you know what I mean? And like, sometimes like a good ministry is just the presence of being there. You know what I mean? I think that, and so, just witnessing and hearing about the story of Ukraine and the history of conflict that goes back thousands of years. Like, this is not a new thing. Right. And so, there's so many things I'm trying to distill. Like, one of the things I guess that I learned is like scripture says, like, adversity, like, I think births brothers or something like that, or, it connects people. And like the people of Ukraine are so connected right now. You know what I mean? Like everywhere we went, we were family. We stayed at people's houses. We stayed like at the, like Rick Warren equivalent in Ukraine, Anatoly, and we slept at his house for like a week. And one morning we all wake up and the house is, it's like, oh, it's a California earthquake. Like, oh no, that's the Patriot missiles shooting down drones right over the house. And so like we were literally sitting, having coffee together, as you heard,
Russian drones going overhead, just you, and then you'd hear and the Patriot missiles shooting them down, like, and that's life for them. And so like the air raid sirens are going off like every several hours, and your mind gets attuned to these. And like for 6 months to a year after I got back, and I was only in Ukraine for like 2 months, but like I would hear a certain pitch of a noise and there's like instant anxiety.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's like it's tied up. So these people that live there, I got a miniature dose of what people with real PSD deal with. You know, it's like it's pretty wild. Like you're living under that fear all the time that like these missiles and bombs are coming in.
Right. Which for years after, I'm sure still lasts, you know?
Yeah. I don't get it anymore, but like it was funny when we were just we did an event where Ryan and Mila, my friends who are the missionaries in Ukraine, gave everyone a recap, and Gennady was there, one of the main guys of the chaplain battalion out of Mariupol. And you know, when it was on the Balboa Peninsula, and you know, right under John Wayne's thing, right? So like you don't hear airplanes in Ukraine. You don't. If you hear an airplane, it's a fighter jet. Mm-hmm. And so when the plane went overhead, he kind of like, while he was talking, it kind of like gave him a little zing, you know? Right. And he's like, oh, sorry. It's like when I hear an airplane, it's just like my natural reaction is like, I need to pay attention. And so like all the time, no matter where we were in Ukraine, every now and then you hear planes and they're like, yeah, they're American fighter jets, you know, usually, or Soviet era fighter jets going overhead. So it's like, it's a crazy world over there right now. And yeah, I mean, there's crazy stories. I mean, one point, like went on a hike because I just needed to clear my head, and we're not near the front lines at all. And olive drab van comes pulling up next to me, like hauling butt, screeches on its brakes. 3 giant Ukrainians get out and come and grab me. And I was like, oh, I'm American. Like they had my arms, but once they let go of one, I pulled out my passport. And they looked at each other and they didn't speak English, and they just started laughing, shook my hand, and left. And so what it is, if you're of fighting age, you're required to fight in the war. So they were going to pull me in.
That's crazy.
I was about to join the war effort, whether I liked it or not. And like, when you go to the cities and stuff, there's no men anywhere. You don't see men. Like there's only women, because all the men are fighting. And if someone in military uniform like is hitchhiking, like you're by law required to pick them up. And like at one point we're in some random city and there's a guy walking, we pick him up, he's like 65 years old, and he's on his way we picked him up and he's on his way to basic training.
Wow.
To go learn to shoot
so
rifles.
there's no age,
I think there is.
I
think he volunteered.
Okay.
But the age is higher than here. I can't remember what it is. But yeah, it's just it was a crazy world over there. But like also these guys are like, it's like one of the things I learned too is like we're so scared of things. Like generally, I'm like, and these people live in this war every day, and they're not like, the fear is gone. You know what I mean? Like it's not that there's not danger. Like there's such camaraderie, and they love each other so well, and they love just being with each other and being present, and eating borscht together, and like it revealed so much of like what's really important. Yeah, you know.
Earlier when you said that, I don't know how you worded it, but like the challenge brings people together, or the adversity brings people together. It kind of reminds me back in 2001 when 9/11 happened. It was like the differences politically and things like that seemed to have evaporated for a little while, right? Everybody was just America, like we're all standing for this our country, right? And people were united through this like adversity and this challenge and this whole thing that happened. So it's just weird how like you could forget about stuff when you need to, and you kind of unite together.
So then, what would it look like to forget about that stuff when you don't have a need? You know what I mean? Like, is that possible? And like, I want to believe so.
It's just like you need everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people, or the masses. It seems like there needs to be a catalyst that sort of triggers that forgetting of one thing and bringing in of the other. Yeah,
and I think it can translate though. I think it's like, when you go through something like that, or you get that truth in some other way, like when there's an employee or a coworker or a spouse or a partner or whatever, like, and it triggers your fear response, and you're just like, hold on a second, we're not cavemen anymore. We're not in a war. There's not an artillery shell about to drop onto my head. Like so then you can respond instead of react, you know what I mean? Like pause and like, and then like love people in that. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's a translation there that I think coming back from this, I've been able to show up as a much more like calm person. I still I'm an intense person generally speaking. So like, but like many magnitudes where like it takes a lot more to get me there, and like I'm in this season of growing in that where, you know, someone can verbally punch me in the face and I'm getting closer to being able to just kind of like, oh man, that's interesting, you know?
Right.
And then like, why would you say, what do you like, what's going on? Let's talk about it, you know, instead of like, when you repay evil with evil, you're going to get more evil. You know what I mean? Like, so
like you also have a desire to understand. It seems like, right? You want to unpackage it and go, okay, well, there must be something I don't understand for you to have this point of view or perspective or whatever. So like, help me try to see it your way, even if I might not, but like unpackage it, right?
Absolutely.
Help me understand.
And if I failed at something, man, I would love the opportunity to make it right. You know what I mean? So it's like, or if you perceive something that wasn't, you know, like, I think that's that whole transparency, unveiled face. Like if you can get to that point with people and be like, you can solve almost anything. Yeah. You know?
So can you remember the moment where you were sitting out there in tropical paradise and you said, this is all not fulfilling and like, I gotta go back and I gotta go. What was that moment where you like, okay, I'm going to go get back in the business. I'm going to go, did the business like force you to come back? Your brother is no longer CEO. I'm going to move on. Someone else, you got to come back, Ben, or like, what was that dynamic to shift back and bring you into this place you're back in now?
Yeah. So he gave me like a year heads up, and he just did say, he's like, you know, this has been awesome and a good run, but, I want to, you know, my kids are getting a little older and I want to spend more time with them. You know, he's an all in kind of guy. And so it's like, he's like, I just want to spend more time with them. Like, you know, by this day I would like to be out. And so, yeah, a nice runway to think about it, you know? And I think as God does too, like that revelation came during that year that like, there's so much during that time. Yeah. That I wanted, like, I just felt like I can carry more weight, you know. It's almost like that season was coming to an end, but I don't think the season of the sailing season is coming to an end. And I also like, there's just too many crazy stories, but one of them, I went to like there was a pastors conference in Tahiti for all the pastors of the South Pacific. And they gathered there and they're like in the middle of the message, like, you there, stand up. And I'm like, there's no way he's talking to me. You know, and like, he's like, yeah, you. And so I stand up and he ends up giving me a word, and he said a lot of things, but one of these things he said is like, God made it clear, like, and I had a friend who recorded it, which is so cool, and that you are a missionary and you've been a missionary, but you're now called to be a missionary in your own nation. And then God put Hangar 24 back in my hands, you know? So it's like, it was a crazy thing. 'Cause that was the like stirring in me, is like one of the things I recognized out doing missions and stuff. It takes time to build trust and influence when you're in a foreign country, and like people don't really let you speak into things or even build things. Like one church, I said, I'll build you a website. It's like, you know, this would be like a $5,000-$10,000 website. I'll build it for you. Like, I just need someone to give me some of the information, photos. I'm like, oh, you know, Fred's been building the website for 3 years. We don't want to step on his toes and da-da-da. And it's like, sometimes it's hard to help because like there's dynamics going on. And,
right.
And then I realized, you know, I kind of have ultimate influence at Hangar 24. So like, I don't need anyone's permission, you know, to move things in a healthy direction.
Right.
And so all that kind of stuff, all these doors, like God made it clear, like it was time to come back. The sailing's for sure not over. Like I'm going back there in May, but it is hard to even think about going there right now, which is weird because I'm so excited about the things that we're doing here now.
Yeah.
So
how do you do this from remote? You have full management in place and
I honestly, I don't even know right now. Like, 'cause when I went previously, I had some middle management in place that's not there. And I actually think it's a good thing, that I'm real close to it right now. We do have great teams and they can for sure do it without me. I could probably disappear for 3 months and the place would be fine, you know, but, it's one of the reasons I'm working so hard right now is to get as much of these project type efforts completed before May. But Starlink and communication, and bottom line is like the world's small. Like should something happen, just get on a plane.
Yeah.
You know, so long as I'm not in the process of sailing, like once I set sail, I can't stop until Fiji. There's nowhere really to leave the boat between Tahiti and Fiji. So I have to at least get there.
Which is how long of a trip?
I'll probably do that over a month, probably.
Okay.
It doesn't take a month, but it's like you don't want to blow past like the most beautiful places on the planet. So like the idea is to be able to enjoy that and actually like get some rest and reflection to come back like fully recharged. I don't know if it's going to look like that. So I think I'm still learning, trying to figure out like how is this going to actually work out this time. But it will.
Yeah.
It will.
That's amazing. Well, it's coming pretty soon.
It is.
Excited to see all the stuff. Yeah. Well, May will be here pretty quick. Yeah. I got 2 kids born in May, so I know birthdays are coming soon,
so
right?
you got some planning.
Yeah, it's coming. But I'm sure God will open the doors or close the doors or set the things up and make it happen. And
it'll become clear. It will. I know. It's not clear yet, but it will.
Right.
It will be.
Well, one thing that's really encouraging that I get when I listen to this entire story is how there's no telling like how long a certain season is, but that things like all end up lining up and coming back and going full circle. And, I did this little, one of the podcast episodes by myself. I was talking about how long's a piece of string.
Okay.
Right. And you're like, well, I don't know how long's a piece of string, right? As long as it could be. And so it's like you ask this question, well, how long is the season going to be? And you can ask God, like, how long is this season going to be? And it's like, you don't know till it's over, but it's encouraging to look, and you can kind of like compartmentalize those seasons, look back, and like you are, from what you're saying, this refined like person who can now stand at the other end and really look back and whatever the challenges were going through it, it's now like so worth it, right? And you come out the other side and you feel like it also seems like you feel like you're a vessel that can give so much more than you were able to before you went through that, like, I don't know, metamorphosis or whatever, evolution you want to call it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Like maybe maturing. I like that. Like, as I matured in my faith, I think as we mature in our faith, our capacity increases for sure. Our capacity to love and be loved. Yeah, for sure.
Well, if there's anybody listening to this who's like, in any of the similar positions as you, like where they had a dream of doing something and, maybe they don't have that pilot that grabs them and says, you have to do this right now or anything, but anything you'd share or a piece of advice or something that you would say in this concept of thinking beyond the horizon. So many of us are kind of not blinded, but like we can only see so far and we have limiting beliefs. Is there anything encouraging or anything you would say to help expand people's beliefs of what they can do or is possible or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there's a common theme that seems to work, at least in my experiences, is just getting real with God and being transparent. Take your desires to Him with like full transparency of what you know, what you don't know, what you're scared of, what you're excited about. And then when He starts to give you clarity, to take the next step. I think that's really like, don't worry about how long the season is, where it's going to even lead. It's just take the next step. So it's like, get real with God and be super transparent, but like communicate those desires. Like, I want this, like this is, and let Him speak into it. And then when that door starts to open, like just go walk through it and see what happens. So long as it doesn't hit below the water line or you don't hit a rock and sink, it's not that big of a thing. Like, I'm going to sell my house and do it. Like don't get hit below the water line and just take the next step. And then you'll get to where you're supposed to go.
That's awesome. Take the step.
Yep.
It always involves a little bit of faith.
That's it.
Way cool. Well, I appreciate you coming out here and taking some time, telling the story and unpackaging all this stuff. I think it'll like meet a lot of people where they need to be. And I'm really excited to hear more about some of the things you're working on and projects and how this whole thing unveils, which will be in your book. Yeah. And maybe when that book comes full circle, it'll be a good time to come and chat again and talk about kind of the launch and promote that thing.
I would love that. Yeah. It's been a pleasure being here with you and chatting it up. And
absolutely.
Hopefully we get to chat again in the future.
So where can somebody go to pick up some Hangar 24?
All right. Well, I mean, go to our website, hangar24brewing.com. There's a find beer clicker that can use your address to tell you the closest place. But the best way is to go to one of our tap room and restaurants in Irvine, Riverside, Redlands, or Lake Havasu City, Arizona.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely be taking you up on that one. I got a buddy who always wants me to go out to Havasu, so next Havasu season, we'll definitely try that one. But Irvine is right around the corner, so we're going to try that for sure.
Love it.
Before we wrap up, can I pray for you?
Oh, I would love that. Yes, let's do it.
Awesome. Lord God, I want to thank you so much again for the opportunity to have this platform and have an opportunity to connect with Ben again. It's been some years, and I'm just so encouraged that I've had the opportunity to have friends and relationships in my life like this, that they're just on fire for you and working for you. And I pray that it inspires other people who are hearing this now. And he's working on so many things that we didn't even barely scratch the surface on, that I think are going to be truly impactful here in our community and amongst all of his employees and extend beyond that. So I just pray that you be with him, give him clarity, and the friction we were talking about in the beginning, that it would be something that's only enough to be necessary, and that the fruit of all this labor would be go tenfold beyond what he even thought it would be. In Jesus' name, amen.